All right, we give praises to him and honor to the Most High Yah. In the name of Yahweh, Shah this day. Pick it up in John chapter 5, verse 39. Search the scriptures. In them, you think you have eternal life, and they which testified me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Allah in you. Come in my Abba's name, you receive me not. Another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that comes from Allah only? Do not think that I will accuse you. The Abba, there's one that accused you, even Moses, of whom you trust. But had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how should you believe my words? Let's go on around here to Ephesians chapter 3 and verse 14. He said, for this cause, I bow my knees unto Abba of our Lord, Yahushua HaMashiach, of whom the whole family and Shamahim and Aras his name, that he would grant you, according to the riches of his esteem, to be strengthened with might by his Ruach and inner man, that Mashiach may dwell in your heart by faith, and that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all saints what is the breadth, length, depth, height, and to know the love of Mashiach, which pass all knowledge, that you might be filled with the fullness of Elohim. We're going to take a little detour versus looking at the breadth and the height. But we're going to look at that he will grant you according to his riches. And we're going to look at these riches in a couple of ways. First thing we want to do, we are going to be redundant, but nevertheless, Proverbs chapter 13 and 7 to be specific. 2 Corinthians chapter 8 right behind it. From 2 Corinthians chapter 8 to Revelation chapter 3 and verse 14. From Revelation chapter 3, verse 14 to Proverbs chapter 8. Oh, don't got it in this book. Now, notice the key thing that we read in Ephesians, that he would grant you according to the riches of his esteem, that you might be strengthened with might or with power by his breath in the inward man. We got Proverbs 13 and 7, and it says, Shalom, man. He said, there is that make himself rich, yet have nothing, and there is that make himself poor, yet have great riches. Matter of fact, let's read verse 8. And the ransom of a man's life are his riches. Now, we've looked at Proverbs 13 and 7 and 8 already through our journey through the book of Proverbs. I will read you that word for ransom one more time. Of course, it is kofer, and that's a price of a life. Shalom, man, or your ransom, kaf, pay, and raj. So go ahead and be subdued by the word of the highest. Go ahead and get yourself subdued. But before we go to, as I mentioned, 2 Corinthians chapter 8, come on over here to Luke chapter 12. Because he said, there's a man that have great rich, make himself rich, and yet have nothing. So we will go ahead and read what Yahushua told this man over here in Luke chapter 12 on general principle. Luke 12 and 13. Look at what it says. And one of the company said unto him, Master, speak to my brother, that he divide the inheritance with me. He said unto him, who made me a judge and a divider over you? Look at what he said. The first thing he said is, who made me a judge and a divider over you? So what is he telling you? I don't care nothing about what you're talking about. At the end of the day, I don't care nothing about what you're talking about. It is none of my concern. I know a lot of Bruce, especially here in these days and times, we have a lot of conversations amongst our people when it regards to things of that nature. But the Lord was telling two men who were fighting over the inheritance that he genuinely just didn't care. And look at what he said after that. And he said unto them, take heed and beware of covetousness, for man's life consists not in the abundance of things which he possesses. That's something that we need to keep in mind. Yeah, it's nice to have a lot of things, Yeah, you want to be able to leave an inheritance behind, but he told you to beware because covetous is as the sin of idolatry, and to get you cut off because you go to desiring more and more and more. When he told you, if you have food and raiment, therewith be content. Which takes us back to what the gentleman stated in Proverbs chapter 30, to give him food convenient for him. But that's another conversation for another day. He spake a parable unto them, saying, the ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. He thought within himself, saying, what shall I do, because I have no room where to bestow my fruits? He said, this will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there will I bestow all my fruits and my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have much goods laid up for many years. Take ease, eat, drink, and be merry. But Elohim said unto him, you fool, this night your soul shall be required of you. Then who shall those things be by which you have provided? So is he that lay up treasure for himself and is not rich towards Elohim. So what is he telling us? That we can lay up all these natural riches, but you not laying up the riches of Elohim, and he will require your soul because he paused. Come over here to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. I'll get to 2 Corinthians chapter 8 in a moment. It's chapter 12 that I desire. 1 Corinthians chapter 12. You can pick it up at verse 27. Now you are the body of Mashiach and members in particular. Elohim has set some in the body, first apostles, secondarily prophets, thirdly teachers, after that miracles, then gifts of healings, helps, governments, and diversity of tongues. Are all apostles, are all prophets, are all teachers, are all workers of miracles, have all the gifts of healing, do all speak with tongues, do all interpret, but covet earnestly the best gifts, and yet show I unto you a more excellent way. Why did I read this? Because he told you to covet the best gifts. See, we don't covet the things that be of Elohim. We usually covet things that be of this life. You covering things that are temporary, things that shall be destroyed, and that cannot be translated into the world to come. So what is that for mentioning that for? It's for us to keep things in perspective. That doesn't mean that you can't do this or acquire this. That's just pure outright foolishness. But it can cause you to have a bad perspective. And you don't keep your mind set on the things that you ought to. And you don't desire the things that you ought to. And you end up missing out. 2 Corinthians chapter 8, if we would. 8 and 8. Second Corinthians 8 and 8. I speak not by commandment, but by occasion of the forwardness of others, and to prove the sincerity of your love. For you know the grace of our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, that though he was rich, yet for your sakes he became poor, that you through his poverty might be rich. See, come over here to 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and look at verse 1. Now, he just told you that through his poverty or through his humility, you might be made rich. I'll give you the Greek word for poverty, what they use here, because I know what the Hebrew equivalent would be. But let's see what the Greek word means. A condition of one destitute of riches and abundance, literally or figuratively. The word is patoka, is how that would be pronounced. So go over here to 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 1. He said, we then as workers together with him beseech you also that you receive not the grace of Elohim in vain. For he say, I have heard you in the time accepted, in the day of salvation. Have I helped you? Behold, now is the accepted time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. Giving no offense in anything, that the ministry be not blamed, but in all things approving ourselves as the ministers of Elohim in much patience, afflictions, necessities, and distresses, stripes, imprisonments, torments, labors, watchings, and fastings. Now, let's look at this poverty, because he's talking about these things, and we're looking at how Mashiach Through his poverty made us rich, and we will look at specifically this man doing those things. Let's look at regards to patience, and let's go to Mark chapter 3. Mark chapter 3 and verse 1. And he entered again into the synagogue, and there was a man there which had a withered hand. They watched him, whether he would heal him on Shabbat, that they might accuse him. He said unto the man which had the withered hand, stand forth. He said unto them, that is it lawful to do good on Shabbat, or to do evil, or to save a life, or to kill? But they held their shalom. And when he looked on about them with anger, being grieved for the hardness of their hearts, he said unto the man, stretch forth your hand. He stretched it out, and his hand was restored whole as the other. The Pharisees went forth straightway and took counsel with the Herodians against him, how they might destroy him. Where do you see the patience? The patience with the people's unbelief and the hardness of hearts, because he was angry with them people. But we know that Yahuwah is slow to anger. In the midst of that anger, he probably wanted to bust the people upside their head. Nevertheless, move on to the next one. Let's look at afflictions and distresses. Excuse me. Matter of fact, let's just move over here to fastings and knock that out. Come over here to Matthew chapter 4, because we already by it. Let's knock the fastings out. Y'all already know what that is, but let's knock that on out real quick, like, and move on to the next one. Matthew chapter 4 and verse 1. It says, then was Yahushua led up by the Ruach into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil, when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards was a hunger. So now he's in a weak state. He's fasted and he's hungry. You know, he was offered many riches and he turned them down, because in his poverty, or in his the rejection of abundance and riches, or as you can sit back and look at it for the most part, being in the flesh, renouncing his birthright, so that you could be able to be made rich through that birthright. Matter of fact, let's look and see that. Paul, Genesis chapter 25, and then to Genesis 27. But of course, you know, he renounced his birthright or laid it down so he could pick it back up. But Genesis chapter 25, right? We pick it up about verse 29 or 28 or 27. Genesis chapter 25, verse 27. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field. Jacob was a perfect man, dwelling in tents. Isaac loved Esau because he did of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Jacob saw a pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray you, with the same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. Jacob said, sell me this day your birthright. Esau said, behold, I'm at the point to die. What profit shall this birthright do to me? Jacob swear to me this day, and he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Well, you know that Yahushua pretty much renounced his birthright. When he became a man and came down here and suffered, he renounced that. He gave that up. Remember, he said, I lay my life down. He laid that birthright down. But let's see how he picked it up again. Come over here to Genesis 27. Look at what the blessing was, or what Jacob was promised. Genesis chapter 27, verse 27. He said he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment and blessed him and said, see, the smell of my son is the smell of the field which you have blessed. Therefore, Elohim give you of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of corn and wine. Now, when you look at fatness of the earth, this is regards to riches, abundance. Now, he gave that up to give it to you, or the elder giving it to the younger, if you would. And that is mashman. And of course, that is richly prepared food, fatness, fat, peace, fertile, fatness, fertile field. You know, this is dealing with riches, abundance, if you would. Or well, we go back and what we've seen in Luke chapter 12. So swing on back over here to what's the next thing we need to look at? We just did fastings. We could look at watchings. Come over here to Matthew chapter 26, and let's look at watchings. And of course, we can do stress and watchings at the same time, truth be told. Matthew chapter 26 and verse 36. Then came Yahushua with them into a place called Jessamine. He said unto the disciples, sit you here while I go and pray yonder. He took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. Then he said unto them, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry you here and watch with me. And he went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, O my Abba, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me, but nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. And he come unto the disciples and find them asleep, and said unto them, and unto Peter, what, could you not watch with me 1 hour? So you see that he's in watchings, but you know what he's watching for, because he said the hour is at hand that the Son of Man be betrayed into the hands of sinners. So we took it out watchings, we've grabbed fastings, we've knocked out patience. We're going to get to afflictions in just a moment. But let's go over here to Matthew 27 and 1, and let's look at imprisonments. When the morning was come, all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Yahushua to put him to death. And when they had bound him, they led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate, the governor. And Judas, which betrayed him, when he saw that he was condemned, repented himself and brought again the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. And he said he sinned, and this, that, there, and the third. Now, of course, you know, let's look over here when we look at stripes. Let's turn over here, look at here when they beat the man. Right location for that. Might have to slide to another chapter for that one, because I think that might be in Luke where they scourged him, where you can read where they scourged him at. I'll come over here to Mark 15. No, we can right there where we at. I overlooked it. That's my fault. Matthew 27, right about verse 24. Shalom, man. Matthew 27, verse 24. When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but rather atonement was made, he took water, washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I'm innocent of the blood of this just person. See you to it. Then answered all the people and said, his blood be on us and on our sons. Then released he Barabbas and said unto them, when he had scourged Yahushua, he delivered him to be crucified. So you see Yahushua catching them stripes. We've already looked at his patience. We know he's a minister of Elohim based off Matthew chapter 20, verse 28. We're about to look at afflictions in a moment. You've gotten stripes, you've gotten imprisonments, you've gotten watchings, you've gotten fastings. Now let's turn around and let's look at, let me see what this here do I want to see. Let's look at Tobin. Let's look at Tobin. Let's look at Tobin. Give me a second. Let me see what they got, how they define Tobin in Greek. It might not be the same how they define it in English. If you don't know what Tobin is, it's a little trouble, a little uprising, if you will. And that is in same here, a state of disorder, a disturbance, confusion, a commotion. Well, you can see that in regards to Pilate. We just looked at that with Pilate and the people saying, hey, let his blood be on us. Pilate say, I don't want nothing to do with it. It's confusion going on. You can also back that up in Matthew chapter 26, when you've seen them bringing false witnesses, and none of the false witnesses could agree because there's confusion going on. There's atonement, and you can see he can go through that. And you'll notice that a lot when those who are the ministers of the living Elohim are on the scene, that they will seem to cause confusion, not because they're bringing disorder, but because the righteousness of which they preach, which is the gospel of the living Elohim, brings confusion in the midst of sinners. Because remember what it said. They said, we don't know. Say if he be from Elohim, then he couldn't do what he was doing. If you pay attention, there was a lot of confusion and commotion as it pertained to Yahushua, because he caused the people to be divided. He told you that because they didn't know, is he of Elohim? Is he not of Elohim? That's what was going on. That's what the people were beefing about, because he was not on the type of time that these other people were on. Let's continue. All of this is about the things that make him rich, because he say in all things improving ourselves to Elohim, so that they approved themselves in patience. They approved themselves in being afflicted. We know that he was afflicted and being crucified. They approved themselves in necessity, because he said the Son of Man have nowhere to lay his head at. You know that he was approved by the distresses. You know, he was approved by the stripes. You just seen where he was whooped. He was approved because he was in prison. He was approved because he upset the order. And upsetting the order is not like what you got going on right now. Upsetting the order is letting it be known that Yahuwah reigns in the earth and that Yahusha is the son of the living Elohim. That upsets the order. Nigga don't care nothing about upsetting these people political structure, economic structure. That man don't care about none of that. He gonna upset that anyway because all of that stuff has to cease. See, everybody want to get up and, you know, everybody happy. They said they're not going to fly no Confederate flags at NASCAR races. And in Jacksonville, they taking down all the Confederate statues. And it seems like niggas getting what they want. They say the protest working. And you don't know who are playing you like the fool that you are. Because he's going to allow you to believe that things are going to get better and you can have peace amongst these people. And as soon as you think you're comfortable, he's going to bring destruction swiftly upon your head. And the man of sin, the son of perdition, will rise up, bring all these people together and deceive you. And you will be a servant of Satan, and your fate will be sealed with worms and fire. Because you'll be separated from the living Elohim because you put your trust in man and not in Yahuwah. And shame on you. But nevertheless, so then we look at the next thing. You've seen that the labors, because you know he labored in the gospel. He did his labor and suffering for salvation. And he also with the watches and fasting. But also you're approved by the pureness, by knowledge, by long suffering, by kindness, by the Ruach HaKodesh, by love unfeigned. So you're also approved by being pure, by having the knowledge of Elohim, not just knowledge, but the knowledge of Elohim, and Yahusha is the knowledge of Elohim. I've told you this before. I've told you this again. If the book says that if a person has the Ruach HaKodesh, let me rephrase this here. Yahusha said in the 14th chapter of John that if a man have the Ruach HaKodesh, they will bear witness of him. He said it again in the 16th chapter of John. All these people saying they got this man Ruach in their body, but yet ain't none of them bearing witness to this man as the scripture have said. Ain't nobody pointing you to this man. Everybody's pointing you to everything but this man. And if they point you to this man, it's generic and antiseptic as it can be. It cannot benefit your soul, and it cannot deliver you from death. You have to pay attention to that. Because the man already told you the word that he would put in the mouth of all his servants in these latter times. He already told you what it was. It's the same word that was in the mouth of the apostles. It's the same word that was in Yahushua's mouth. It was the same word that was in the prophet's mouth. It's the same word that was in Moses' mouth. They were all talking about him. And if you ain't talking about him, then what is you talking about? Because you're not talking about the Father if you're not talking about him. So then how is anybody going to be saved? You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, keep on thinking like this here about everything else. You're going to find yourself knocking on that door, and that man going to tell you, depart from me. I don't know you. Let's continue. Then he say, by having the ability to be long-suffering, the ability to be kind, by the Ruach, and not faking love. Not faking love to your brother, not faking love to your sister, not faking love to your Elohim. But that love is pure and is true, and it ain't no holes in it. He say, by the word of truth, by the power of Elohim, by the armor of righteousness on the right hand and on the left. Look at it. He say we get approved when we honor, we get approved when we dishonor. By evil report, by good report, as deceivers yet true. See, I told you Paul was a liar. See, this is when you're dealing with a stupid nigga. Because see, all we got to do is come over here to Matthew 27. See, let me show you why I say that's when we're dealing with a stupid nigga. See, look what they called the Lord right here in Matthew 27, verse 63. See, these niggas just fool. Matter of fact, you can pick it up at 62 for the complete and total context to see why this man say as deceivers, yet true. Because the man already told you, let Elohim be true and every man a liar. Because we know Elohim is not a man that he should lie, nor the son of a man that he should repent. And if he say it, shall he not do it? But check it, right? Matthew 27, 62. Now, the next day that followed the day of preparation, the chief priests and Pharisees came together unto Pilate, saying, Sir, we remember that deceiver said while he was yet alive, after 3 days, I will rise again. See, they called him a deceiver. Now, we know he ain't no deceiver. We know that he told the truth. But when you're dealing with people who wicked as the day is long, who are unbelieving, and whose heart is made out of pure granite and stone, you'll be deemed a deceiver in their eyesight. Remember that Yahushua had already warned his apostles that men would kill you and think they do Elohim service. So you have to understand that. Back to Matthew chapter 20, 2 Corinthians chapter 6. Look at what he said. As unknown, yet well known. as dying, and behold, we live, as chastened and not killed, as sorrowful, yet always rejoicing, as poor, yet making many rich, as having nothing, yet possessing all things. See, let me read that to you again. He says, as unknown, yet known. But guess what? You can walk around and a whole bunch of people know who Paul is. A whole bunch of people don't know who he is. That don't make that gospel not true. He said, as dying, and behold, we live. Because he died to the flesh, let you live in the Elohim. He said, we getting chastened, but we ain't dead. Then he said, sorrowful, but rejoicing, but poor, as making many rich. Now come over here to James chapter 2, if you would. James chapter 2, if you would. Let's give Elohim praise this day, that his name may be forever esteemed. Now look at what this man tell you right here. You could pick it up at verse 1 of James chapter 2. It's all good. See, my brethren, have not the faith of our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, the Lord of esteem, with respect to persons. For if there come unto your assembly a man with a gold ring and goodly apparel, and there come in also a poor man in vile raiment, and you have respect to him that wear the gay clothing, and say unto him, sit you here in a good place, and say to the poor, sit you there, or sit here under my footstool, are you not then partial in yourselves? And are you become judges of evil thoughts? I'm here to tell you, I know a lot of brews do that one now. Do jack swing on niggas nuts. Got a lot of respect to persons. Got a lot of respect to persons. And you already know Yahuwah say that he is not a respecter of persons. He don't look at the poor no better than the rich, and vice versa. Don't look at, see, we look at a lot of stuff. That brother there, this, that brother there, that. Man, that man told you that if you be cheap, he asked the younger. See, a lot of niggas say, well, we already know, a lot of dudes got low self-esteem. A lot of dudes got a lot of mental issues going on. Some dudes just sit back, they're full of pride. You know what I'm saying? Want the praises of men. And that's why that, and some dudes are lackeys and simps and suckers and squares. So you know what I'm saying? So they be in awe of a man. He's just a man who is subject to like passions as you are. You can respect where respect is due, but be serious with yourself. You know what I'm saying? That man ain't no better than anybody standing in that room. Ain't no better. You know what I'm saying? You have to understand that. Who is not going to look at you and look at him and say, yeah, that's right. He better than you. Only way he going to be better than you is if he perform righteousness. Then he going to look at you and say, yeah, he better than you. But if y'all doing, if you both believe with unfeigned faith and you both obedient, he don't look at you no different than he looking at this man right here. It doesn't happen. No matter what your status or station is. It doesn't matter to you. It's all the same. He said, hearken, my beloved brethren, have not Elohim chosen the poor of this world, rich in faith, heirs of the kingdom, which he had promised to them that love him. See, that's going back, right? That you might have the riches of his esteem to be strengthened by his ruach in the inner man. So what are the riches of his esteem? Well, we've kind of looked at some of those things. It's pureness, it's knowledge, it's long-suffering, it's kindness, it's the ruach hakadash, it's the word of truth, it's the power of Elohim, it's durable riches. Come over here to Revelation chapter 3, verse 14. And then from Revelation 3 and 14. What is the other one that I mentioned? I'll remember y'all willing in a moment. Proverbs chapter 8. Praise the Lamb. We'll swing over there. You got to ask yourself, what's your revenue in regards to faith? Because at the end of the day, ain't none of us really can't be rich as it pertains to monetary, because we dealing with fiat currency. None of us had no gold and no silver. So in reality, you ain't got no money. Now I'm just stating that because of a conversation I had with a good friend of mine, and he was like, which one would you rather have? And I was like, he was talking about his forfeits, what type of currency should black people have? I'm like, if you ain't got no gold and silver, you ain't got no currency. He was like, boom. He was like this, that, in the 30s. Like, well, if you had a choice between the U.S. dollar and the Korean dollar, which one would you choose? Neither. Because it's toilet paper. Rather have gold and silver. If you're going to have some money, have the real thing. Because then you won't have debt. When you're not using gold and silver, you have debt. You have gold and silver, there can't be any debt. Because you can't print any paper bills outside the amount of gold and silver that actually exists. You can't do it. Nevertheless, Revelation 3 and 14. And unto the Malachim of the house of the Laodiceans write these things, saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of Elohim. I know your works, and you are neither cold nor hot. I would you were cold or hot. So then because you are lukewarm and neither cold or hot, I will spit you out of my mouth. Because you say, I am rich and increase goods and have need of nothing, and know not that you are wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. I counsel you to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that you may be rich, and white raiment that you may be clothed, and that the shame of your nakedness do not appear, and anoint your eyes with eye salve, that you may see. And as many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous, therefore, and repent. He said, I recommend that you buy gold of me tried in the fire, that you may be rich. But we're going to get to gold in the fire in a moment. Come over here to Proverbs chapter 8 for a brief. You know, we talked about a little bit about riches on towards the end on Shabbat. When they say the traffic of your riches in Ezekiel chapter 28. Because the riches ain't monetary. So I just want you to come over here to Proverbs chapter 8, right? We could pick it up at verse 17. And it says, I love them that love me, and those that seek me early shall find me. Riches and honor are with me, yea, durable riches and righteousness. My fruit is better than gold, yea, than fine gold, and my revenue than choice silver. Now, I know we talked about this numerous times. You take it out of thought, and this is something that is enduring, durable, something that lasts. It's highly valued. See, come on over here to Luke chapter 12. Highly valued. Luke chapter 12 again, I believe. You have to sit back and look at, do you value the riches of Elohim? Do you value the wisdom, the understanding, the knowledge, the righteousness which is of faith? Do you value those gifts of the Ruach, those true things that are the riches of Elohim, the long suffering, the kindness, the gentleness, the meekness, the righteousness, the armor of Elohim? These are the riches of Elohim. That's why he said to be rich in faith. That's why he said there's a man who have great riches and don't have nothing. That's why we started off in Luke chapter 12, looking at that gentleman right there, because he had a lot of things, but he didn't have anything because he didn't have Elohim. But he said there was a man who made himself poor. See, which goes back to what we were sitting back when we look at him rejecting his birthright like Esau did. He made himself poor by rejecting that. Yahushua made himself poor so that we could be rich. And Esau rejecting that made Jacob rich. And Yahushua rejecting that made us rich. Because now we can be partakers of his riches. That's why we look at his imprisonments and his fastings and his stripes and his distresses and his watchings, because this is what he gave up in order to make you rich. His afflictions, him being afflicted on the cross, this is what he gave up so that you could be rich. He didn't have to do that because those were his riches. You were not entitled to them. He did not owe you those. See, that's the same thing everybody talking about. They want reparations. Reparations for what? You seeking to get paid back from a man. And for what? And for what? That man didn't put you in that condition. You put yourself in that condition. So Elohim allowed them to rule over you. He will pay you back. He will pay you back. That man's already told you that. So I'm not going to be going around here asking these white folks to cut me no reparation check. They ain't got to cut me one. But they going to cut it whether they want to cut one or not. Because Yahushua going to make sure they cut it. Because at the end of the day, they got to come up off everything because it's not theirs. It's his. You know what I'm saying? But why you want that reparation check? Because you want to build a kingdom and make you a golden calf and say it's Yahuwah. That's what you want to do. You want to build you a kingdom without him. Because you're going to say that you're going to say he did it, but you're going to real deep down in your soul feel like you did it off your own hand. See, that's what all these people who profess to be believers in Yahuwah is. You really want to have a kingdom without Yahuwah. You don't really want, you just like your forefathers during the time of Saul, crying out for a king when you already have one and you don't want him to rule over you. You ain't no different than that parable when Mashiach say, we're going to sit back and say, oh, that's the heir of the wine of the vineyard. Let's slay him and take it for ourselves. That's what these niggas out here doing. Ain't nobody gonna sit back and say it. That's what y'all doing. You want a kingdom in the name of Yahushua only. You don't want him to be the ruler over it. Luke chapter 12, verse 31. Matter of fact, make it 29. Luke chapter 12, verse 29. You know what I mean? These niggas think a nigga don't beat the play. You can run that game on a dumb nigga. You ain't gonna run it on me. I see straight through you, man. Straight through you. I already know what you're doing. Because if we know the word like we say we would, Psalm 68 and 29. See, let me read you Psalm 68 and 29. Y'all stay where you at. Then let me read you Psalm 68 and 29. Then let me read it to you. Let me tell you what it say. You can go back and you can read it for yourself and you can see it for yourself and just know that I ain't making it up. But Psalm 68 and 29 say, because of your temple at Jerusalem, shall kings bring presents unto you. That's what he said they're going to do. He ain't said they're going to bring presents to you in the land of your captivity. Matter of fact, ask yourself this question. Ask yourself this question. When in the history of the sons of Yasharal have you been given any bread while you were captive amongst another people? Don't worry. I'll wait. You name me a time when you were captive amongst another people and Yahuwah gave you riches. See, they don't want to talk about that because these niggas don't believe the word. See, they say, oh, you coon and this, that, there. I ain't waiting for nobody to crack the sky. Well, get ready to crack hell open, you wicked, unbelieving bastard Jew. You don't trust in Yahuwah? Put the book down and be the nigga you were born to be. Don't see the same way you'll look at a woman who's a 304 and tell her stay out here and be the hoe that she meant to be, or be the wicked, unbelieving sinner that you were born to be. And put the book down and start playing with it. Play with yourself, because that's the only person you playing with. You're not playing with him, you're playing with yourself. You're deceiving yourself. Man, if you don't trust in this man and you don't have a belief that he will reward you for diligently seeking him, you wasting your time. You're wasting your time. Nevertheless, Luke chapter 12, in verse 29. And seek you not what you shall eat, what you shall drink, neither be you of a doubtful mind. For all these things do the nations of the world seek after, and your Abba know that you have need of these things. Rather seek you the kingdom of Elohim, and all these things shall be added unto you. Fear not, little flock, it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell that you have and give alms, and provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that fail not, where no thief approach, neither moth corrupt. For where your treasure is, your heart will be also. That's what you sit back and look at. Your treasure in heaven or your treasure down here? Which one is it? Only you can answer that question. Only you can answer that question. I can't answer that question for you. Well, I can, but I can't at the same time. You're the only person that can answer that question. Where your treasure at? What's most important to you? What you mostly concerned with? See, that's some of them come back. See, that's that Christian stuff. You want your heaven later. Ain't about me want no heaven later. That man promised the kingdom of righteousness. So I look for a new heaven and new earth according to the promise. If you want to do some reparations to build you something in the old heaven and old earth, that's your business, my nigga. I ain't looking for no old heaven and old earth, son. I'm looking for the new heaven and new earth, where righteousness dwells, where everlasting life dwells. I can behold the face of the living Elohim in my flesh and not perish. If that's not important to you, that's on you, my nigga. I can't really do nothing about that. You understand? But come over here to Lamentations chapter 4. Lamentations 4. I done spent 38 minutes, ain't even got nowhere close to what I came here for. But praise Yahuwah nonetheless. Because what came forth and what needed to come forth, how it was supposed to come forth when it needed to come forth. Lamentations 4 and 1, if you will. How is the gold become dim? How is the most fine gold changed? The stones of the sanctuary are poured out in the top of every street. The precious stones of Zion, comparable to fine gold, how they are esteemed as earthen pitchers, the work of the hands of the potter. So let's begin then. First thing we look at is gold. You know that it's sahab. That is gold. That is something that is brilliance of a splendor. It's also a precious metal. It's also gold. You got Zayin, you got Hay, and you got Ba. So guess what you get to behold? The crucifying and Yahushua. That's what you get to behold. That's what you get to behold, because he said, how is the gold become dim? You look at dim. It's a mom. That's the dim or to grow dark or to eclipse. So pause, and I'm going to just run this through for those who may not know. Amos chapter 9. Amos chapter 9. Bring this back to you, remember? You already know. When I be thinking about it, I'm like, it's a lot of stuff we have to go back and bring back to remember. I know I say this a lot, but some of y'all had no idea How much that we got to sit back and go back over. Actually, that's oh, I won't. I'm in the wrong place. Yeah, my bad. Amos chapter 8, verse 7. And we do have to go back over a lot of stuff because we've been over a lot of stuff over the years. I don't know, some stuff y'all done forgot. Some stuff some of y'all ain't never heard. When we look at a mom, right, we have Ayin and two means. So you get to know and experience the, the confusion that the Ruach brought by bringing dimness on this fine gold. But let's look at this here, right? Amos 8 and 7. You who have sworn by the excellency of Jacob, surely I will never forget any of their works. Sure, shall the land not tremble for this? And everyone not mourn that dwell therein shall rise up holy as a flood, shall it be cast out and drowned as by the flood of Mizraim. It shall come to pass in that day, saith Yahuwah Elohim, that I will cause the sun to go down at noon, and I will darken the earth in the clear day. And I will turn your feasts in the morning, and all your songs into lamentations, and I will bring sackcloth upon all loins, baldness upon every head, and I will make it as the morning of an only son, and the end as therefore as the bitter day. Now it has only in italics, so I'm just going to sit back and it probably only says son and not only son. But he tell you that he'll turn that day as a day when you mourn the son. And that word that you have there is Yasid, and that's only one solitary or only begotten son. And of course, you know that that'll take you back to where you see in Genesis chapter 22, when he was ready to sacrifice Isaac. Isaac was constantly and consistently referred to as Abraham's only son. So you know when that happened, you know that he caused it to go dark. So you know when he said he made it dim, this is how the most fine gold is changed. But now you're going to see a difference in word for gold here. You're going to find fine gold. You're going to find katim. This is pure gold. This is gold as pure as it is originally mined, or something that is carved out. This is pure gold. Ka, tau, and mean. So you can sit back and see how the blood was subdued to bring forth this covenant. You know, in Hebrews chapter 9, he told you that without blood, the death of the testator, a testament was without force. So in order to be made into pure gold, he had to die. How do we know that he had to die? Because see, that goes back to the Esau and the birthright renunciation. Esau renouncing his birthright is the same as Yahushua being the son of man. Yahushua getting the birthright again and being like Jacob is him becoming the son of Elohim. You know that you can only become a son of Elohim if you're willing to do this. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, if you would. Second Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. He said, but Elohim has not given unto us the ruach of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. Be not you therefore ashamed of the testimony of our Lord, nor of me his prisoners, but be you partakers of the afflictions of the gospel according to the power of Elohim, who have saved us and called us with a Kadash calling, not according to our own works. Mm-hmm. But according to his own purpose and grace, which was given us in Mashiach Yahushua before the world began, but is now made manifest by the appearing of our Savior, Yahushua HaMashiach, who have abolished death and have brought life and immortality to light through the gospel. Well, let's look at here what Brother Jen is here talking about. Come over here to Isaiah 54, because he talking about when he tell you that he married unto you and that your maker is your husband. So come over here to Isaiah 54. Look at what he tells you. Isaiah chapter 54, verse 6. Isaiah 54 and verse 6. For you who have called you as a woman forsaken and grieved in Ruach, the wife of youth, when you was refused, saith your Elohim. For a small moment I have forsaken you, but with great mercies will I gather you. In a little wrath I hid my face from you for a moment, but with everlasting kindness will I have mercy on you, saith Yahuwah your Redeemer. For this is as the waters of Noah unto me. For I swore that, for as I have sworn that the waters of Noah should no more go over the earth, so have I sworn that I would not be wroth with you nor rebuke you. For your mountains shall depart and the hills shall be removed, but my kindness shall not depart from you. Neither shall the covenant of my shalom be removed, saith Yahuwah that have mercy on you. O afflicted and tossed with tempest and not comforted, behold, I will lay your stones with pale colors, and I will lay your foundations with sapphires. I will make your windows of agates and your gates of carbuncles and all your borders of pleasant stones. All your sons shall be taught of Yahuwah, and great shall be the shalom of your children. And righteousness shall you be established. You shall be far from oppression, shall not fear, and from terror, and it shall not come near you. Behold, you shall gather together, but not by me, and whosoever shall gather against you shall fall for your sake. Now, some of these things, right, this, especially verse 13, that pertains to when Yahushua said they will all be taught of Elohim, and those who've been taught of Elohim will come unto me. Why do you think Paul came to him? If you actually been taught of Elohim, then you'll come to Yahushua. Most people not coming to Yahushua because they ain't been taught of Elohim. So how would they come? They wouldn't know to come. Of course, you're going to come to Yahushua if you've been taught of Elohim because you'll see what they were wanting to say. But let's go back over here to Lamentation chapter 4. It states that this fine gold is changed. That word for changed is Shana, and that is to alter. We read about that the other day, that we see this body be changed. But let's continue. The stones are poured out in the street. But let's look at these precious sons of Zion. They're comparable to fine gold. Now, of course, when you look at precious, it's shakar, and this is something that is valued. It's weighted, it's precious. Remember, he said, it's your father's good pleasure to king you the kingdom. Remember, he told you are more valuable than many sparrows. You're precious in his eyesight, those that belong to him. Comparable is salah. That is to be weighed or to compare. Samak, lamad, and olive. But let's look at fine gold, because that word for fine gold is paz. Totally different word. This is refined gold. Refined. You got pay and you got zayin. That's those who speak of the cutting or the gospel. Speak of the crucifixion. Speak of the sufferings of Mashiach, if you would. This is refined gold. Let's look at something as it refers to being refined. I need you to come over here to 2 Timothy chapter 2. I need you to pick it up at verse 19, if you would. From 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 19, I need you to swing to Isaiah 48. And after you get Isaiah 48, you can grab your Malachi chapter 3. And get your Joshua chapter 6. Second Timothy chapter 2, verse 19, if you would. And it says, nevertheless, the foundation of Elohim stands sure, having this seal, the Lord know them that are his, and let everyone that name the name of Mashiach depart from iniquity. But in a great house, there are not only vessels of gold and of silver, but also of wood and earth, some to honor, some to dishonor. If any man therefore purge himself from these, he shall be a vessel unto honor, sanctified, meet for the master's use, and prepared unto every good work. So when you look in a man's house, and we know Mashiach is that house, and inside the house, he said, you got gold and vessels of gold and of silver. Now we're looking at refined gold, because he said that's what he's going to be. He called the precious sons of Zion. They are as fine gold or refined gold, and how they are esteemed as earthen pitchers, the work of a potter's hand. Now, some of that you should be able to know. Let's look at this here, right? Flee also useful lust. Follow. Now, when you look at useful lust, we talked about this probably about 3 years ago, maybe 4. When you look at youthful lust, you have to go back and look at the lust that your forefather had in the wilderness when you were in your youth as a people. When he's telling you to flee that. He ain't telling you to flee the lust you had when you were 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. See, that's an unlearned person telling you that. Go look at the lust that the people had. The people had a desire for flesh. They complained on every cut and corner. We can't revisit that whole play. But if you want to look at fleeing youthful lust, you're going to have to go back and you're going to have to look at what your people did in the wilderness, and you're going to have to go back and look at Adam. Nevertheless, he say, but follow righteousness, faith, charity, shalom, with them that call on the Lord out of a pure heart. But foolish and unlearned questions avoid, knowing that they do gender strife. See, that's something that a brute just don't know how to do. They don't know how to leave foolish and unlearned questions and conversations alone, knowing that it's going to bring forth arguments. Arguments do not lead for edification. Edification leads to salvation. Strife just leads to nigger talking. But let's continue. And the servant of the Lord must not strive. See, if you're a servant of the Lord, you can't be out here fighting. A lot of these dudes counseled off of that. Because you didn't see Yahushua walk around fighting. You seen Paul say, you ain't never seen me striving and going back and forth with nobody in the temple. Because you're not going to be able to edify nobody if you always out here seeking and strive and fight. That's works of the flesh. But let's continue. He say, but be gentle unto all men, apt to teach. Apt to teach is not ready to teach. That apt means to be skilled. I'll get that for you just in case you think I'm talking. You can also double check it and look it up for yourself, because you ought to be doing that anyway. Apt to teach is skillful in teaching. Simple as that. Skillful in teaching. You got to have the skills to pay the bills. Can't be trash. Got to know what you're doing. Patient and meekness, instructing those that oppose themselves, if Elohim peradventure will give them repentance to the acknowledgement of the truth, that they may recover themselves out of the snare of the devil, or taken captive by him at his will. That man say, if Elohim would permit it. To turn them, because you really opposing yourself. You're not opposing him. You're not hurting him. You're hurting yourself. Isaiah chapter 48. (48:9). Isaiah 48:9. He say, for my name's sake, I will defer my anger, and for my praise will I refrain for you, that I cut you not off. Behold, I have refined you, but not with silver. I have chosen you in the furnace of affliction. For my own sake, even for my own sake will I do it. How shall my name be polluted? And I will not give my esteem unto another. Talking unto me, O Jacob and Yasharal, my call, I am he. I am the first. I also am the last. My hand also laid the foundation of the earth, and my right hand spanned the heavens. And when I call unto them, they stand together. Now we just want to look at refined. And if you remember, that is to rob, and that is to refine, that is to test, that is to smite, to burn, if you would. He said he refined you, not with silver, but chosen you in the furnace of affliction. So to become refined gold, you have to go through those afflictions, because that's how through that poverty that you could be made rich, or how Yahushua made us rich through his poverty, because you have to go through the fire. As you already just seen, that he told you that I counsel you to buy of me gold tried in the fire. I want you to come over here to Malachi chapter 3. You can pick it up at verse 1, Malachi 3:1. Oh yeah, I got. Let me crank this up a little bit. Behold, I will send my messenger. He shall prepare the way before me. And the Lord whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple, even the message of the covenant, whom you delight in. Behold, he shall come, saith Yahuwah of hosts. But who may be who may be a abide the day of his coming? Who shall stand when he appears? He is like a refiner's fire and like a fuller's soap. He shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Yahuwah offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Yehuda and Jerusalem be pleasant unto Yahuwah, as in the days of old and as in the former days. Now I tell you that he's as a refiner's fire, and of course you know that is Saraf again. Now when we look at purifier, because you're going to have Saraf for that here, but now you have to hurt. But you know, is to be clean, to be pure. That's tet, hay, and rosh. That's what he's telling you. That now that he's going to purify, a refiner and purifier. Now remember, Yahushua told you are clean from the word that I've spoken unto you, and that he has washed it by the washing of the water of the word, that you might be without spot, wrinkle, or blemish. So when he sits back to purify you, remember to tell you in Isaiah chapter 1, wash you, make you clean, to cease from doing evil from before my eyes, because your hands is covered with blood. That's why he tell you to go get baptized and wash away your sins or wash away that blood. But he say that you can make a pure offering, an offering unto Yahuwah, an offering in righteousness. First Peter chapter 2, right? You can pick this up at verse 4. Because remember, he told you, make it verse 4. Remember, he told you earlier in regards to what it is. What was that? What we read in Lamentations 4 about the sanctuary being poured in the top of the streets, or the stones of the house being poured in the top of the streets. Actually, the stones of Kadash being poured in the tops of the street. He said, to whom coming as unto a living stone, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of Elohim and precious. You also, as lively stones, are built up a spiritual house, a Kadash priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to Elohim by Yahushua HaMashiach. Now, we got to look at these sacrifices. I'm going to go a little over. I'm going to let y'all know that now. I got to go do cardio when I'm done with this, but nevertheless, I have to do this here. I can't leave this on the table. We talked about the priesthood of Melchizedek and Levi. But now you're a spiritual priesthood offering spiritual sacrifices acceptable to Elohim. So y'all would need to know what are spiritual sacrifices that he accepts. Come over here to Psalms 51, if you would, and let's look at one. You have to look at the spiritual sacrifices that he accepts. I want you to first pick it up at verse 6 of Psalm 51. I'll move around a little bit. We're going to look at three different things that are sacrifices that you need to offer. Remember, the word for sacrifice is zabah. It says right here, behold, you desire truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden part you shall make me to know wisdom. Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow. Make me to hear joy and gladness, that the bones which you have broken may rejoice. Hide your face from my sins and blot out all my iniquities, and create in me a clean heart, O Elohim, and renew a right ruach within me. So you look at the purging and the cleaning. You're going to have to be refined. You're going to have to walk. You're going to have to take you through the fire. You're going to have to test you so you can be that pure gold or that pause. So that means you would be talking of that sacrifice. You're not refined. You're not pure gold if you ain't been through that suffering. If you're not a partaker of the sufferings of the Mashiach, you're not pure gold. As the precious sons of Zion, you know what the earthen pictures is, because 2 Corinthians chapter 4 say we have this treasure in earthen vessels. You know it's the work in the hands of the potter, or what he told you in Jeremiah, that he marred it and then he made it back how he wanted to make it. So you already know that you were born again. You have destroyed the old man and been made in the image of him who died and rose again. You are earthen pitcher, but you made in the hand of the potter, or as it says in Romans chapter 8, you conform to the image of Mashiach. But let's continue. Verse 15, if you would. Well, make it verse 14. He said, deliver me from blood guiltness, O Elohim, you Elohim of salvation, and my tongue shall sing aloud of your righteousness. Blood guiltness is the sins that's on you. Because if that blood is upon you, you're guilty of the sin. That's what the law tells you. He said, O Yahuwah, open you my lips, and my mouth shall show forth your praise. Look at what he tell you. For you desire not sacrifice, else I would give it. You delight not in burnt offerings. The sacrifices of Elohim are a broken ruach, a broken and contrite heart, O Elohim, you will not despise. Well, let's take a look at what contrite is for those of you who may not be aware. And of course, you know that he said who would dwell with him in his Kadash mountain, him that's of a humble heart and a contrite ruach, and know him who's of a humble and contrite ruach are the ones whom he will revive. That is Isaiah 57 and 15. If you didn't know, the ka is the word for that. It's somebody who's crushed, broken down into pieces, broken sore, which takes us back to the afflictions, and distresses that we read in 2 Corinthians chapter 6, which allowed him to be able to impart to you riches through his poverty. You have Dalet, Kaf, and Hay with that. So you turn around and you see that you can behold, or you can say, you could be look at how Yahushua was subdued and hung or sacrificed. That's how you can see that. So that's when you sit back and you look at when he tell you, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted, because you are crushed. So when you sit back and you see that you had this broken and contrite heart, Elohim will not refuse you. And that is his sacrifice. The sacrifices of Elohim are a broken ruach. Let me get that word for broken for you, because it's shavar. That's to break into pieces, to break down, to be crippled, to be crushed. In this instance, to be humbled. You have Shan, Ba, and Raj. So you can sit back and see how the Father consumed the Son. Or he humbled the Son. Because he said the Son learned obedience by the things that he suffered. So if you will sit back and you look at it, you're going to have sacrifices of Elohim as a humble spirit. Period, point blank. Remember, see, we're going to go past the, offer yourself as a living sacrifice. That's your reasonable service. You need to understand what these sacrifices are and offer them. He said, do good in your good pleasure under Zion, build you the walls of Jerusalem. Then shall you be pleased with the sacrifices of righteousness, with the burnt offering, the whole burnt offering. Then shall they offer bullocks upon your altar. Well, what's the sacrifices of righteousness? Well, that's the sacrifice of faith, which would take you back to that offering yourself as a living sacrifice. Because you remember, he said, who shall go for us? He said, send me. You were willing to die. So you have to ask yourself, when you sit back, the sacrifices of righteousness, the sacrifices that you would make according to your faith in Elohim, what sacrifice you gonna make? Now let's take a look at another place. Let's go over here to Psalms 27. Psalms 27 and 4. Psalms 27 and 4. And after that, Psalms 107. He said, one thing I've desired, this is Psalm 27 and 4. I desired of Yahuwah that I will seek after, that I may dwell in the house of Yahuwah all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of Yahuwah and to inquire in his temple. For the time and time of trouble, he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. He shall set me upon a rock, and now shall my head be lifted up above my enemies round about me. Therefore will I offer in his tabernacle sacrifices of joy. I will sing, yea, I will sing praises unto Yahuwah. So now you got joy. You know what I'm saying? Which we know is a fruit of the Spirit. He said the sacrifices of joy will he offer and sing praises to Elohim. A lot of individuals don't offer that sacrifice. That goes back to what we were talking about the Levites and singing praises. It's a lot of rules gonna go burn in hell because of that. They're not gonna want to offer that sacrifice with their lips. The same way how they tell you in Hosea to offer the bulls or the calves of your lips. What is that? Offer that sacrifice of repentance from the heart and say you're a transgressor. Matter of fact, come over here to Hosea chapter 13. I believe that's in, it might be 14. I believe that Hosea chapter 14. Then we'll hit Psalms 107. Because remember, these are spiritual sacrifices that you offer up acceptable to. These are sacrifices that Yahuwah is going to accept by the hand of the high priest. That you bring it to the high priest to offer upon that altar. The dude don't want to tell you about that. Hosea 14 and 1. He said, O Yasharal, return unto Yahuwah your Elohim, for you have fallen by your iniquity. Take with you words and turn to Yahuwah and said unto him, take away all iniquity and receive us graciously. We will render the calves of our lips. Well, let's look at what that says when it say rendering the calves of our lips. Let's take a look at what it say. He say, take with you words. You know what those is, Lakat and the bar. He say, take away. That's Nasah. You know what that is? That's to lift up, to bear, or to carry. So now when you're looking at that, you're looking at Mashiach being lifted up upon the stake. So this is what he's saying, to take away your iniquity and receive us graciously, which is Lakak again, which is to lay hold of and seize. So you want to take, he's going to ask you to take words or lift up that gospel so that iniquity, so he can receive you graciously. Graciously is told, which is good. And then you have shalom, which you know is a covenant of peace. A covenant of peace. So you say you will render a covenant of peace. So it says shalom, par, safa. Par is for calves. Lips is safa, which is your lip or your language. So guess what? Look at the two things that you see there. You got turn around and you see, excuse me, you see, where's it at? You see Nasa, and you see the word for and shalom. So what are you rendering? You're rendering a covenant of shalom. Well, what is that covenant of shalom that you render? That you confess that Yahushua is Lord and that he died and was resurrected in the third day and you were immersed in his name. This is just not talking about I've sinned, like a lot of dudes who don't believe in Mashiach tell you. Because he say take with you Nasah to lift up and to carry. Pay attention to what it's telling you. Because that's what it's telling you. Psalms 107, so we can get on out of here for the night. Psalms 107 and 19. You know what? Psalms 107 and 10. Look at what it say. Such as sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, being bound in affliction and iron. You've seen that with Yahushua, because they rebelled against the words of Elohim and contemned the counsel of the Most High. Therefore, he brought down their heart with labor. It fell down, and there was none to help. Then they cried unto Yahuwah in their trouble, and he saved them out of their distresses. My Elohim, why have you forsaken me? He brought them out of darkness and the shadow of death and break their bands asunder, because it was not possible that he could be beholden of death. Oh, that men would praise Yahuwah for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the sons of men. For he have broken the gates of brass and cut the bars of iron asunder. Death has been destroyed. Fools, because of their transgression and because of their iniquities, are afflicted. Well, we know that Yahushua was made a fool for your transgressions, and because of your iniquities, he was afflicted. But we also know that men, because we be fools, because of transgression, because of our iniquities, we are afflicted, which you constantly see amongst our people to this day. Their soul abhor all manner of meat. They draw near unto the gates of death. Then they cry unto Yahuwah in their trouble, and he saved them out of their distresses. He sent his word and healed them and delivered them from their destructions. He sent Yahushua to save you from your sins. Oh, that men would praise Yahuwah for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the sons of men. Let them sacrifice the sacrifices of thanksgiving and declare his works with rejoicing. So praise be to Elohim. So that's the next thing that you would need to be around here sacrificing is thanksgiving. And of course, that's Todah, and that's to give thanksgiving or give praise to Elohim, or a hymn of praise, or a good, nice thank offering or sacrifice of thanksgiving. Anytime you dealing, when you sit back and you look at what the work that Yahushua had done, you ought to give that sacrifice and give thanks. That's why Paul told you, and in all things, give thanks to Elohim by way of Yahushua HaMashiach, because this is pleasing in his sight. And this is how you would be able to offer up spiritual sacrifices in a snapshot that are acceptable to Elohim. The sacrifices of thanksgiving, the sacrifices of righteousness, the sacrifices of praise, and the sacrifice of a broken spirit. See, this goes back to what we just seen in Malachi about how the silver and gold, so that they could make up an offering that's acceptable to Yahuwah as in the former time. Because see, in the book of Haggai, chapter 2, verse 8, he told you the gold and the silver are his. So now when you look at, we look at this gold and silver, we looking at this as these are the sons of Elohim. They belong to him. Come over here to Yahushua, son of Nun, chapter 6, real quick. This is about 8:48. I want you to pick it up at about verse 15. It said it came to pass on the 7th day that they rose up early in the dawning of the day, compassed the city after the same manner 7 times. Only on that day they compassed the city 7 times. It came to pass at the 7th time when the priest blew the trumpets. Yahushua said unto the people, shout, for Yahuwah have given you the city. and the city shall be accursed, even it and all that are therein. To Yahuwah only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all that are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. And you that anywise keep yourselves from the accursed thing, lest you make yourselves accursed when you take the accursed thing and make the camp of Asherah accursed and trouble it. But all the silver and gold and vessels of brass and iron are consecrated unto Yahuwah. They shall come into the treasury of Yahuwah. Now, of course, you know in the book of Revelation, when that seventh trumpet is blown, Yahuwah will come through, or Yahushua will come through and grab those that are his. I want you to look at treasury, which is Osar, which is the storehouse, which should take you back to Malachi chapter 3. Bring meat into my storehouse. You have Aleph, you have U, you have Sod, and you have Raj. So now you get to see the strength of the way that is secured by the chief or secured by Yahusha, because you got strength in that way, that set apart way, and he'll bring you into that storehouse. See, if you ain't a part of that set apart way, it's not bringing you into that storehouse or to that treasury. Now, of course, you know, consecrated is Kadash. All that gold and silver is consecrated and brought in as a vessel, because we just seen about the vessel in the house of the great master. Is the great house. There's vessels of gold and silver, and those that have been refined or purged are meat for the master's use. So in order for him to use us, we have to cleanse. See, a lot of niggas like this here, man, like, you know, Yahuwah do this with me and Yahuwah do that with me, and you ain't been cleansed. Yahuwah can't use you because you're not cleansed, because you're not a clean vessel. So how is he going to use an unclean vessel in order to manifest his word? He's just not going to do it. He's going to toss it to the side until that vessel decides that it wants to clean itself. We had a few other things, but Yahuwah willing, we'll get to that on the Shabbat. So hallelujah for Yahushua and the word. We give thanks and praise to Yahuwah forever and always in the name of Yahushua. Appreciate everybody's time. Bless everybody out of the house of Yahuwah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach. You know, just wait and consider. We got some more. We had to deal with that. Slide that in real quick before we get to the rest of what we got. Just wait and consider. Making yourself a vessel meet for the master's use. Understanding that precious gold, those sons of Zion, that precious gold, them precious sons of Zion, that's refined gold. So that's refined gold. I mean, they've been tested, they've been cleaned, they've been made pure. You know what I'm saying? But what make them pure? The desire for the riches that be in heaven. Things that's greater than the things that we could get on this earth. All that stuff gonna pass away and be burnt up. So you have to keep things in perspective. But you know, again, y'all willing, we'll continue this on the Shabbat, man. I appreciate y'all. I got to go get on this Stairmaster now because I ain't get to it early in the day. So you who are willing on the Shabbat, we'll keep it rolling.